Hello and welcome back everyone to what is already our fourth session on our second day of Big Data Days. And today we're going to be listening to a very special person from a very special company and learn how you can go from being a DBA, an open source contributor, towards becoming a CTO and co-founder of a commercial open source company. With me today, I have Trista, who is going to be presenting from Beijing, China. She is an AWS as a hero and CTO and co-founder of SphereX, which is an open source software as a service commercial startup, which is backed by some of the world's leading venture capital firms. Previously, she was a senior DBA in GD Technology, where she was responsible for the design and development of digital science and technologies in intelligent database platform. Trista now focuses on building distributed databases and middleware ecosystems and is strongly committed to open source. I'm that as well, so I'm very interested to learn more about that. Trista is also serving as an Apache Sharding Sphere Project Management Committee member, as well as a mentor with various other Apache incubating projects. Trista loves to encourage more women to pursue careers in technology and regularly shares her empowering journey from open source contributor towards CTO. It's my great pleasure to introduce Trista Pan to you today, who is going to take us on a journey on how you can use open source technology to change the world. Welcome, Trista.
All right, hello everyone. So thanks for hosting introduction about myself. Yeah, so today I will give this talk to introduce my experience and my thinking thoughts about this topic, from the DBA and open source contributor to become the CTO and a co-founder of a commercial open source company. Actually, it's a long history, so I have a lot of topics to present, but I guess most of you have your most concern about this journey. So I pick three important issues or questions here, and about each question, I will give my answer and give more explanation about each question. So I hope you get a really valuable stuff from this talk. Host again introduced a lot of about myself. So I'm Trista Pan, and at the beginning, I just DBA to maintain a database administrator to maintain our database to use the open source database, and gradually found I'm interested in open source development, so I become a developer. And then I get involved a lot in open source and become the Apache member and a lot of the mentor of the Incubator projects to give them a lot of tips and suggestions around their technology, open source project, or community. And from last year, we leverage the open source power and our project Apache Sharding Sphere to have our startup company. Yeah, so now everyone, most of people in China here, always on the way about the open source commercial, open source business. Yeah. So let's get started with today's talk around the three questions, and we can have a lot of valuable stuff around the answer. So first question is, how did the switch from DBA to CTO happen? Did it being an open source contributor help making this career transition? About the later part, yes, my answer is yes. Open source really helped a lot about my career transition. But how? Then the next part, I will give more about the how. So my case is here. First, I know nothing about the open source because I just database administrator, and my work or my duty is to use them well, maintain them well, to provide the 24 supports to our big company. But gradually I found that just to do a DBA, it's so limited. I found it's just like a little area you can do. But for me, I want to learn more about the open source, the software, about the database, about the development. From that point, I start my open source journey. At the beginning, I have nothing know about them, so I just do some translation, like the PostgreSQL release note, some translation about them. But gradually I found I can do more about this part, because first, I want to say that it's the dream seed or your motivation about this part. For me, why I choose the computer science and technology as my master, that because at my teenager age, I spent a lot of time on gaming. Yeah, I like the PC game, so I dream one day I could become a game developer. Even though at that age I know nothing about the developer, tech, or open source, etc. But from that day, I master my computer science and technology, this area, and choose the DBA and start my computing and the programming parts. Then I found I know more about the open source, about the technology. So the first important key for me, or I guess for most people, is that the motivation or hungry. Because why you want to do that? Because you have some need, you have some motivation to do that. You have know nothing that you cannot start it from that part, from that position. So the hungry or the motivation is like a seed, can give you a chance to do some change. Yeah, but talk about the hungry or motivation. Actually, there are two types of it. Type is this definition. First, I think it's the negative hungry or motivation. So something you have to do even though you dislike the, for example, examination. Next week, you face examination, you dislike the subject, but you have to do that. That will give you a deadline. That will give you a motivation. I think that's a negative motivation because you don't like them. If you have a lot of choice, you don't try that part. You don't try that examination, but you have to do that. But we have to admit that it gave you motivation. It's so important. Like our salary. I guess most people, why you choose this job? Because you think, oh, this company can give them a higher position, a higher salary, so I choose it. It's wrong? No, it's not error. It's not wrong. It's okay. It's fine. It's one of the motivation. But the second one, it's the positive one. I think it's so important. That's why I said that we need to do our best to find this positive motivation. Those things really interest you. You like it. Even you want to spend your some private time, you also want to do that part. That's the positive motivation or hungry. And if you have some powerful or motivation or dream seed, that can make your workday become breeze and enjoyable. Imagine your workday or your work time one day. It's about 1/3 of your life, right? I guess it's a large occupation, right? Nobody want to wait that precious time, 1/3 of your life. So if you can choose a job or position or area that you're not so dislike them, you think it's there are some interesting parts for me. I can continue doing this job or at this position. That will be great. So that will also give you persistence and chance. Because if you really want to do a good job, you need to pay a lot of time and give a lot of efforts. So why do you want to give them a lot of efforts? That's the persistence. Why can you do persistence? Because at least you don't hate them, right? You a little like them. So you can pay continue to paying a lot of time and efforts on this stuff. And all of the process or persistence will make this seed become a flower. That's so important. And the second one, first you have the seed, you have the motivation. The next part about the environment or circumstance, because as I said, you have a good seed, but it's not the spring, it's not the summer, so you have no condition to make it become a flower, become a tree. So circumstance is the second very important one. And for our employee or for ourselves, what we can do for this part, I guess we need to pick up a position or company you like. Maybe it's a big company. Circumstance, when we think about this part, I guess that's one of the reasons why many people prefer a big company. First, it can give you a higher salary, it's true. But second part, that because you think in this big company, you can see more, learn more, you can meet more professional person, and you can have a lot of chance to entering some program, innovative program. They have a lot of wonderful new idea. So you want to have such experience. So you prefer a big company. That's actually the circumstance. And for us, currently, we have a lot of choice. A big company, a startup company, or you just start your company, a lot of choice. But the circumstance is the key for one's career. And for the open source part, I guess it's share all of these benefits, the needs, because in the big company or in the bigger world, there are a lot of different various needs for you. So the needs will push you to think of more innovative idea to solve them, right? So second, it can give you a lot of area to help you to practice your skills. And also you can meet more professional person to help you grow up, and also can give you a lot of perspective about what is happening in this industry. And about open source, why I recommend it, why I love it, that's because a global active open source community or project, it's a mini company. Or if you in a company, maybe every day you always meet your teammate, but in an open source community, you will meet people from over the world. You have a lot of new connection with them. And because it's a successful and active open source community, that means different people raise their different issue, give their different idea to this community, to this project. So if you are part of this community, you will have a lot of chance to receive all the innovative idea, this new connection, and can help you to deal with a lot of new needs. So that's why I recommend open source community, because it's beyond your limited circle, limited open company group, your teammate. You can have a lot of chance to meet a new person, to create more connection with others, and have a lot of new idea about what is happening in this industry. Because you have so perspective idea about industry, that means you can have more choice about your career. Because if you want to make a choice, first you need to know how many choices you have. And if you have a better perspective, that means you can extend your choice, right? You can extend a lot of knowledge and opportunity about that part. So the next part is about the like gaming, like the positive immediate feedback. Why I like gaming? Why you like gaming? Why you want to spend all your night to stay with them? Because you found you do one action, the action will give you immediate feedback. Pong, 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 such feeling, right? And in the open source, it's the similar here because, for example, you raise a pull request, a PR to fix a bug, right? Or to do some programming, right? Write some needed. Then the mentor or the manager of this community or others, they just hang out there and they will feedback. They will give you feedback. I think, wow, you have a good idea. Wow, this code, you needed to do it better. They give immediate and positive feedback. and you received them, then that's evidence your action is correct or not. That will guide you. That will give you more chance to communicate with others in your industry, in your area. So that's the magic of the open source. You can make it become gaming and just do the contribution, do the action, and gradually you grow up and a family. Maybe you become the one of the project management committee, and you can get others to join this community to do some programming, to do some coding. Yeah, so that's what you can get from the open source community. That's many people love it, like it. All right, so I can give some case to be the proof of what I said, because I want to say that it's not just the theory. It's just a textbook. No, it's the real case around us. The first one is this guy, the committer of the Apache Sharding Sophia community. Why I know this guy? Because at the beginning, I just published a Google Summer Code program task. And I say, hello, everyone. I have a program on the Google Summer Code. Does anyone want to be part of that? And this guy, he jumped out and he said, sorry, I have no idea about what you said because I'm a newcomer in database area, but I want to have a try. So could you guide me? Yeah. So I think, yeah, okay, because we're in open source, we're equal and we're welcoming. So I gave him some tips, suggestions, and made him have some feeling or sense or knowledge about the database, about distributed system. And they found it really did a good job. So I signed this program, Google Summer Code task to this guy. And gradually, he finished all these tasks. And after this Google Summer Code, he still want to stay here, stay Apache Sharding Sophia community, want to do more contribution, even though he was a student, have a lot of tasks about his graduation. And so we voted as the Apache committer. And then I recommend him to be the mentor for a next open source activity. So in this case, this guy at the beginning is a newcomer for the distributed system. And gradually, he could provide a mentoring and help to other newcomers. That's what he got from this community, from this process. Yeah, he really did a lot of like non-pay efforts and work, but he really got a lot of valuable experience from this case. The next case is from our employee. Actually, this guy, first time he joined this community because he used Apache Sharding Sophia's project for his work, for his company, but gradually found there are some bugs. So he raised some issues to report the bugs, and I comment that issue. I said you debug it and you find the cause. So would you like to fix them? And this guy said, yeah, I could have a try, but I'm a newcomer in open source. I don't know how to raise a PR. So what's the PR in open source? So that's the case for him. But along with the time, he really stayed here, did a lot of efforts, learned a lot from open source, from the distributed system. And last year, I found that it's the right time to invite him to become the really part of this community and really part of this company. So now, even though at the beginning he's the newcomer for the database, and even though we are in different cities in China, but finally, he loves open source, he loves project, he wants to be the volunteer to do this job. So I think, if so, you can just come here and become the employee of this company. We can pay your salary. You can continue to do the original work in this community and commercial parts. And his answer is yes, I like it. So that's the two edge case happened in this community. I know there are so many similar cases happened in this world, but I want to say that if you really want to have a try, if you believe it, it's a good time to immediately do an action about the open source. So, okay, the next question is about, did the open source experience help in any way the startup experience? The answer, of course, is yes. That why the answer is yes? I need to give a lot of excuse about that part, because if I don't give the explanation, that people will think, oh, it's just a fake. Why I think it's important, because my case that open source taught me a lot. At the beginning, I'm also, I don't know what's the open source. I just think that open source equals free download software. Use it. But gradually I found no, it's wrong concept about it. And because in open source, I really did a lot of work. I invest all of my weekends, the whole year, to it. I found it really taught me a lot. For example, like the coding, programming, learn more new case and learn more perspective about the distributed system, about the database. It gave me a lot of chance to be here to give the presentation. Because of it, I have to practice my presentation skill. I have to improve my communication skill. I have to learn how to give people motivation. I have to know how to help people to improve their programming skills and teach them how to do such stuff and start their open source journey. And I also need to know some promotion skills. Yeah, so all of this is not just reflect on my coding or programming skill. All the skills is the soft skill side, but really help me a lot for my next career. I mean, my own startup. Because as I said, open source, community, or project, it's a mini company. It's a mini startup. If you have a startup, you have your employee, they will listen to your advice or suggestion because they need their salary, right? Although you have a lot of approaches to like them to do the things you want them to do, but the salary, that is the first factor that they can listen to your voice, right? But in open source, all the people, it's volunteer. Yeah, you have no money. So in this case, why do people listen to your advice? Why do people want to willing to stay here, to give their time, efforts here, to help this community grow up, to fix the bug? Why? Because everyone, they have their job. They also have their social time and gymming time, bar time. That means if they want to do some contribution, that means they need to spend less time on such stuff and focus on time here. So how to persuade them to join here? So what's the motivation? What's the needs for them? That's the important question you need to consider when you run or when you manage your open source community. There's no money. All the people are volunteers. So in that case, I need to learn more what I said, the software skills, and to make this open source project from 0 star to nearly 16K stars today. Yeah. So you found that this community, this project become larger because at the beginning, it just have one important feature. But today, it have an ecosystem to provide more values to our end users. Yeah, people found or see its charming value there. Yeah. And for this community, you found we have the more than 300 contributors here, and we receive 16 stars here. That means this community is active. People love it, want to give their time there. Yeah, that's about the community, about the project. It's the evolution. About myself, as I said at the beginning, I know nothing about open source, but now I can be the track chair of the Apache conference 2021 and 2022 and later on. And my statistic on GitHub at the beginning, I just focused on my programming. I'm so happy to see, wow, today I have the 510 commits on this project. That means I did a lot of programming. But gradually I found, even though I just programming, I cannot make this community become active because I need more people to help this project, help this community to grow up. I want more people to see its value. I really want to make it become helpful for others, for the end users, for big company, media company, or individuals. So I cannot just do coding or programming. Then I have to push myself to learn the presentation skill, to give the presentation, to introduce the project, to talk more about the open source community and the technology, distributed system, and database. Also, I wrote a lot of article and posts about it. Yeah, so in this process, I grow up and the community grow up, double wins. That's the result. But I persisted doing this for more than 5 years, and I get this result currently. Yeah. So, all right, we still have some time. Yeah. So, after you listen to my voice and you think, oh, open source, I can have a try. So, how to start it? Where I can start it? The first, you can, as the part-time IC, individual contributor for some active and successful community, or found some programs or foundations, open source projects, you're willing to stay there to protect your skills, to meet more people from over the world and have a try. And also you need to persist doing such stuff for maybe half of the year or 1 year. Yeah, that's the first. But I think that way it's a little hard for you because I know this headache. As the part-time IC, I receive a lot of pressure and headache because most of the cases are that you cannot spend your time in the open source, in the community, or to practice your new skill. No, you need to work for one company. So that means you need to spare your private time to do the open source. After your work, you start open source, you start programming or translation or documents. So that will give you more stress, and that means you have less time on your bar or social or gaming, etc. And the second one, but it's a safe way for you because as a newcomer, you have nothing to do with the open source. So you just quit your job and to join the open source. Wow, it's take a risk to do such stuff. The second one method that you're so professional in some area and you can find a company, they have their own open source project. Twitter, Google, etc. A lot of big companies, they will open source their project, and they also want to hire some employees to help them to maintain it or run it or do some contribution to such projects. Then you can be part of that. Yeah, the third approach is that just to work for some open source business company, like our company, Sophia ES, or other similar company, because such open source business company, they started with the open source community or project. So the gene of this business company, it's open source. They will be more diverse and open and welcoming. So I guess that's the best environment for the developers or for geek, for techs, because actually they love this peer-to-peer discussion and review. Yeah. The next is like me, just start your own startup company with your open source projects, but it's dangerous and you need to do a lot of preparation for that, because believe me, it's not an easy work. You know, my hat is a CTO and a co-founder of Sophia. Yes, you think it's an honor, but for me, it's a large responsibility and duty. I need to get out of my comfort zone, I mean, coding or programming, to learn a lot of other stuff. At the beginning, we set up our office, do the recruiting, and invite more people, deal with the team building, make the plan for the company, how to do the product that's market fitting, and talk with the VC, etc. A lot of such stuff. You cannot focus your time and efforts just on coding or programming. Yeah, you need to learn a lot of other new knowledge to run your startup company inside of your open source community. Yeah, so think twice about that part. And that's the last one. It's about the timing, because it's everyone said, yeah, I prepare well for this job, but I need an opportunity. I need a recommendation, right? So that's the timing. That's a luck or opportunity or chance. But for that part, we cannot control that part. I love this control code from Stoicism. It said that something are within your control and something are not. So for the something are not in that part, we just be aware of that, accept that truth. We cannot control that part. And then focus on ourselves. Focus on stuff that you can control. Oh, that's so important. I know, and also including me, at the beginning, I know this code. I think, oh, it's correct. It's okay. It's fine. But when it really fits up with a lot of the stuff I cannot control, I feel like so frustrated and disappointed and lose my belief and lose my confidence. But those stuff, psychology things also need practice. You practice more, fits up a lot of new cases, and you learn more from each case, and you will become stronger. It's not just about your body, it's about your mind and your brain. That's why I said, even though I think the startup company, it's a new, oh, that's the next part. Okay, we just entering the final question. What's the first thing to do after get your seed money? I want to say that even though I have our own company and we run it, we hope it's become better and bright in the future. And we get out of the comfort zone. We knew a lot of new opportunity, chance, challenges from this journey. But I think it's worth it that. It's worth. Why? Because I found, as I said, if the career occupied 1/3 of your life, why don't you make it become valuable for your life, right? So how to make it become valuable for your life, that you need to persuade yourself and identify yourself to make yourself think it need your time and effort spent there. So for this journey, no matter open source, distributed system, database, startup, for me, I'm willing to receive so much challenges and to meet more challenges and to spend my time, weekend, prep time there, because I found it's not just the career. It's also the journey for me to find myself. it's not the theory, or it's not the word, it's the truth around me. Because at the beginning, I really have nothing about those stuff that, but gradually I have to finish all the new tasks assigned to me from the fortune, and I have to deal with such stuff because all of the people are waiting for my answer and waiting for my solution. So they pushed me to give my quick, immediate thinking thought about it and rethink about it, and then give the answer. So that helped me to grow up, no matter about my physical body and also about my brain and the mindset, and then embrace more new challenges. So that's the answer for this question. What's the first thing to do after getting money? The first thing actually is to be happy, because at that point I think, oh, I can start my new career and my new journey for the startup. I could do the real things I really want to do, because at that time, why I want to have my startup company, because original company, a previous job, decided that I cannot to do this open source stuff. I cannot to pay a lot of time on open source. So I have no choice. One option, stay the previous job position and say bye to open source. The second one, quit the previous job and start my new journey, but I need money. So I started. Yeah, so that's the two option for me at that point. And today, when I review my choice, I think it's correct, it's right. Also, I have to do a lot of headache, but as I said, it's worse for me. It's not just about my career; it's also about my life, about my to identify my journey and what my person I'm. Yeah. So that's the all stuff about this talk. Yeah. Oh, that's the case. At the beginning, there are just the Twitter around this community, and gradually we have the Sophia ES Twitter because we have the startup. And this part, that's my Twitter, because I found that our employees are talking about this Sophia EX. They are not just about talk about this open source community. That means I will receive more new duty or responsibilities and expectations from them. But I hope we can have a better and bright future with all these guys, because all these guys, they believe this stuff and they also love open source and distributed database system. Yeah, so that's all about this talk. Any questions you can tell me? Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much, Trista. This was really useful presentation. I'm very happy that you share so much of your passion for open source. We've received a couple of questions from the audience, so if it's okay, I'll moderate those first. And then if we have time, I'd also like to ask a couple of questions to you.
Okay.
Good. So the first question that we received is, I think you kind of discussed this a little bit along the way, but what is the best way to get involved and especially recognized in the open source community? Because I think a lot of people get involved, but how do you build up reputation?
How to build the presentation?
No, reputation. So recognition.
A reputation. Oh, the community, right? Or the project.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a long story about that part, because if you want to create the reputation or community, the first question you need to consider is the value of this project, because you want to solve some people's if this project can solve people's issue or their question, they will willing to have a try to use it. When this user start to use it, they will gradually find that there are some parts this project cannot meet their new challenge. Then they will give their feedback, and gradually this community will eventually and it will be stronger, and more people will willing to join it. So that's the first thing you need to consider, the value of your project. The second one, you also need to consider to promote it. and promote it. You need to, it's like how do you promote the product, right? Write the blogs or have some interaction collaborations with other community or foundation and do some presentation to introduce this product and a lot of things, and to create some stuff about this project or community. And last one, you also to present the community, what is happening in this community. Because if people want to join this community, first they need documents, right? Because there's no, if you have the documents, the Google will link people, will bring people into this community. And the document will help people know about the project. And also you need to publish the milestone in this project. Then people, if they found, oh, my skill can match all of your needs, so I'm willing to join here and do some development or just to do some bug fix there. So you also need to prepare a lot of document stuff, post about it. That's the important factor I can quickly give, but there are a lot of maybe next time I have a chance, I can present more about that part.
Yeah. So can I say summarize? It needs to be value, and it needs to be communication and getting interest in the project in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Then I have one other question that just came in, and that is, can you share a few resources of the open source community?
The resources of the open source community?
Yeah, so maybe some links on how people can get started with open source or something like that.
Oh, I guess if you want to know more about the open source resources, you can like just click my Twitter here, because I post a lot of open source stuff or materials. I also write some articles about how a student start their open source journey, how an employee start their open source journey, how you find a good project there. So if you're interested in such stuff, just find this Twitter account, and you will find a lot of materials there.
Good, that's very good advice. Then maybe as a last question, I'm obviously very fascinated by your company, Spherex. I also saw that you received seed money right now to kind of grow further. One of the things that always interests me is, how do you balance growth and further product development with ultimately needing to go into a commercial model and pressure from shareholders to kind of start coming into a more commercial viable software in this case? How do you balance that kind of pressure and that opportunity?
How to balance the pressure of the
So the pressure from investors to kind of get a return on their investment versus the fact that you're in an open source project, which is for the greater community.
You mean balance the development between the open source, the commercial part?
Yeah. So you have money, you receive money from investors, right?
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Yeah. So the story, the answer is that actually, first, the open source, it's the community that all volunteer will join there. That means if you want to this project, you cannot the quick support from this community. That's the open source, like a commercial model, that how to use the project, your open source project, to start your open company. First, you have the professional tech support for this project or for your product. The second one, that if you want to have or split the plan for your open source part and the business part, you need to make the features make it different. Actually, I have to say yes, all of the open source projects and your commercial project, they have a different feature scope. And for the commercial part, they actually have a lot upgraded enhancement features to help user to deal with a lot of you have a lot of traffic. At this case, you need more upgraded features, right? So the commercial part will include that part. The third one, it's about deployment or the that's about the you can put your project on the cloud, right? Because the open source, you can use it in any way, private cloud or no cloud, and anywhere. But for a product, a mature product, we want to make it deploy it easily and quickly. So we will just provide a lot of tools to help you set up quicker. On cloud is the best way. Or other way, we have other tools to help you one command, use it, set up it, use advanced features, and make it to meet the big challenges from the big companies or from end user customers.
Good. I think that's a very, very clear answer. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Yeah, thanks.
Before I close the session, Trista, I just wanted to let everyone know that in our next upcoming session, we're going to be listening to Dr. Lim Sean, who's a Senior Vice President from Global Solutions Development at Aerodyne Group. And he's going to be talking about empowering social entrepreneurship through the democratization of DT3. And I'm pretty sure he's going to explain that term during his presentation in more detail. Trista, I would like to take a moment to thank you so much for being part of Big Data Days. I think you have, first of all, a beautiful story, moving from the open source community into becoming a co-founder and a CTO. I think it's also a very inspiring story of what you can do with data nowadays. You're obviously a very gifted presenter. So thank you so much for being part of this community, for being part of Big Data Days. And I hope you are willing to accept my invitation to also be part of any of our future upcoming events.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. It's glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Trista.